welcome to the foam rolling workshop. So if you've attended any of the other workshops that I've done, we did a lower body foam rolling workshop and an upper body workshop. In those workshops, we went into a little bit more detail on the muscles that we're targeting, where the muscles attach and where they run. I'm not going to give as much detail today. It is important to know a little bit of the anatomy of the body. You don't have to know the names of the muscles, but you do need to know where they attach, where they are, so you can target those muscles and those trigger points. So with foam rolling, there are a number of different tools you can use for foam rolling. We've got the Rolga that we use regularly in here, and just the traditional foam roller. They come long, they come short. They do the same thing regardless of the length. Different tools, they can fit in different areas, and you can use slightly variated techniques with them. So they can both pretty much get all the same stuff, but there are slight advantages and disadvantages to each depending on what you're rolling out. For today, we're going to stick with the traditional foam roller. If you have a Rolga, you can use that as well. So now with the roller, today we're going to go through pretty much just a flow. Now the key is you want to spend time on areas you know are problematic for you, but we're going to be moving a little bit quicker today. So it's going to be a quick overview. And then with this routine, if you hit this routine every day, you might find some areas are tighter on one day than on another. And on that day, you can focus on those areas that you need to pay special attention to. And you might find areas that you didn't even think were going to be sore or tight. And you know, it helps you become aware of your body, what you're doing, and what you've done in the workouts the past few days before. So it really is a great tool, not just for relieving tension and sometimes alleviating discomfort and making you feel better, essentially by restoring the tissue quality, by massaging out that muscle tissue, but it also helps you become very familiar with those muscles you're targeting. For example, the individual muscles in the legs. If you change your leg position on a squat or something like that, you might be sore in a different area than you usually are. And then you can bring it right back to, well, I did this instead of that. So that's targeting this muscle. So you know you're working it. And that's a good thing. All right. So now if you feel pain, you don't want to feel excruciating pain when you're rolling something out. So if you have a previous injury or a tear, or you know you have excessive scar tissue in an area, you don't need to focus directly on that area. If you can apply light pressure and it feels like it's starting to roll out that knot or the tissue, then that's okay. But if it feels like it's shooting or stabbing pain, don't hit that area. Focus on the muscle around the area instead of being directly on it. All right. So starting out, we are going to position the roller right across the back of our shoulders. We're going to start out with just a little bit of mobility here. So working on your mobility, I'm going to lie back right on the roller here. Place my hands on my shoulders and then just open my arms up right along the roller. So if you've got that roller positioned, my elbows should be right on the roller should be right across my shoulder blades. I'm arching my back up a little bit, arching it up, and then arching it down. Arching it up, and arching it down. So what I'm doing is I'm working on that flexion and extension of the back. So working on that thoracic mobility. From here, go ahead and bring those arms up. So I'm opening up my shoulders, working on shoulder mobility, much like we do when we're working the wall slides. And then go ahead and bring the arms right down to the ground. Bring them up slow and steady, and then bring them back down. Now go ahead and turn your thumbs up towards the ceiling. Bring them right up overhead. So just by changing that angle, you might feel it a little bit different in the shoulders, and you might feel your muscles in the back that are on that roller moving ever so slightly. So the slightest change in even your hand position can change the way that you're targeting those muscles in your back and in the shoulders. Now from here, bring them right up to the center. Bring the elbows down. So you're making a goal post with those arms. Goal post right here. Bring them up and bring them down. Now keeping that goal post, keeping the elbows right on the roller. Bring them back, and you might feel a light stretch in the front of the shoulders. Stay within a comfortable range of motion. You don't want to ever force the stretch. We just want to take this bone in the arm and gently rotate it forward and back, just working that range of motion in the shoulder and warming up the rotator cuff. Now, if you've had rotator cuff injuries, you might find that some of these movements can cause a little bit of tightness. If you feel that tightness, stay in that comfortable range. So if one can go back a little bit further and the other can't, well, we know we need to work on that, but you don't have to get them equal on the first day that you start working this routine. Now bring one down, bring one back. Bring one down, bring one back. And we'll switch one more time. Switch it over. And switch it over. Bring those arms up. Now bring them right across your shoulders. So your hands right across your shoulders. And bridge the hips up. So as you pick those hips up, we're going to lean to one side. So you've got your spine that runs right up the middle. We've got a row of muscles that runs down either side. Those are the muscles that we want to focus on here. So bridging the hips up, putting all the pressure on the roller. Now the higher you bridge, the more pressure that you can create to dig into those muscles and start to roll them out. Gently roll over and start right on the top of the shoulder, as high as you can go without having the roller come down right on your neck. From here, just gently rock it back and forth. And each time we rock it back and forth, we're going to move down just a little bit lower and gradually just work it right down into the mid-back. If you feel a knot or a bump, let it sit there. And then you can rock it from side to side. And if you feel it start to release, we'll repeat the process, just working it down, up and down, right down into the middle of the back. So again, how you position your body will allow you to put as much pressure as you need onto the roller. Now, once you get to the bottom of the rib cage, you're not going to have a whole lot of support by your bone structure. So you don't want to put pressure on your soft tissue, on the connective tissue, or on your organs if you're underneath the rib cage. So only go down to the bottom of the ribs with this one for now. Now I've got techniques that I can use to get down a little bit lower to create more support and stability, but we're just going to focus on the mid to upper back right now. And then we'll just roll it all the way up and all the way down. Now the key is you want to keep your core tight, but you want to relax the back. By crossing the arms over, that's going to stretch out that muscle on the back a little bit. I mean, with perfect form, when we're pressing, we want to keep the shoulders back, keep all those muscles contracted as we push away. With this one, we want to do the opposite. We want to flatten it out and stretch it. If you have a chicken breast, you put it on the cutting board, you're going to, mash it out to cook it. So if you get that chicken breast and it's in a big clump right there, what we want to do is put that pressure on it and start to flatten it. Start to flatten it. So you're tenderizing that. And same thing you're doing with your muscle here. Stretch it out and then work that side. So I'll give it a quick once over, right down the back. And then I'll work the opposite side. Same thing, bridging the hips up, leaning over slightly, right up into the upper back and the shoulder. And you might feel some tightness in those muscles right there. You can rock it from side to side. Starts to relax a little. Just gently rock it forward and back. And if you feel little bumps or little muscles kind of pushing back and forth as it goes over the roller, try to position the roller right on those bumps or right on those knots. Usually it'll take about 20 to 30 seconds for it to start to relax. Once it starts to relax, then you can start to work it out a little bit more. And then rolling it right on down. So you find you could probably spend an entire hour on these drills that I'm going to go over with the upper back if you're really tight. But just to go over a quick overview, I'm going to breeze through it a little bit faster. So as we come down, Give the quick once over, all the way down, all the way back. If it feels all right, we're going to relax. And then we're going to bring that arm right back by our head. Just by bringing it back in this position, just like we do the prisoner squats or the squats in the beginning, you're opening up your shoulders. You're stretching out everything in the back right here. From here, I want to be just below my armpit. So I don't want to put the roller on the joint. I don't want to put pressure and have the bone separate from the shoulder. So I'm going to go just below that. And this is going to be, there's a whole bunch of muscles over here that help assist the lats with that pulling motion or rowing motion. So I'm just going to gently rock over. So from this position with my hips up, I'm going to rest my hip on the ground. Just drop my leg over and pivot gently over to the side. Just rocking it back and forth. So by bringing my arm up, I'm stretching that muscle, I'm lengthening it. Now, once I get my hand in that position, I can relax it and then roll it right over. So it should be about even with your chest. So right at about nipple line or so, try to follow that line right across your body. Imagine you've got like a cross section right over here. That's where you want to be on the back side. And then you want to try to feel that lat over there. As you feel the lat, as you feel that muscle, you can relax the arm down, gently rock it back and forth. And you feel there'll be like a ridge right on the side. That's the ridge that you'll see with somebody that works pull-ups or chin-ups regularly, that little ridge alongside the back that kind of pokes out and wraps around. That's the muscle that we want to try to get in. That can create a lot of tension, even in the shoulder. So even though it's one of the primary movers for our back, it can put a lot of tension where it attaches to the arm and the shoulder blade and create tension in the shoulder. So that's important to loosen up. Rocking it from side to side. Then if you want to create a little bit more pressure, I'm going to push this foot into the ground, picking my hips up. Now my hip is not supported on the ground, so I've got quite a bit of pressure I'm applying to that muscle right there. This is pretty tight right now. And then you can repeat the process forward and back. So once you get into a thorough rolling session, it is very much shoulder mobility, hip mobility, and you're developing quite a bit of core strength. So if you have a regular routine before your workout rolling out, it is a very thorough warm-up. And engaging your core, embracing your abs is going to be quite a bit of core work. Rocking it from side to side, try to place it right on that ridge. Now I've got my hip on the ground. I'm just going to scooch my way forward and try to feel that muscle right where it runs down to the back, almost to the bottom of the rib cage there. I'll rock it from side to side. Find the tightest spot, let it relax. Go ahead and bring your arm right up across to your shoulder. Just by bringing that arm up, as it's positioned on that ridge, see if you can feel the tension a little bit differently. And then gently rock it back and forth again. So once you find that tight spot or that lump in any muscle, not just the back, start moving the arm or moving the limb, whatever attaches to that. So instead of just moving the roller on the muscle, you can move the muscle over the roller. So by changing that position, the muscle will actively be lengthening and shortening. So it'll still be sliding over the muscle, even though you've got that constant pressure right on that area. So it doesn't always have to be just moving the body. And this is also a great opportunity to work on shoulder mobility. So right here, I've got the roller positioned on my side. My arm is directly out in front, running parallel to the roller. From here, I'm going to just bring it right out, just hovering it over the ground, or I can rest it on the ground if I don't have the strength to hold it up, and just let it relax right there. And then roll it over, roll it back. Try to work it up a little bit higher, right under the armpit, but again, try not to put it right on the joint. Rotate back. Now, as I roll back, I'm going to bow my chest forward, keeping that hand on the ground. Again, working on that shoulder mobility. And roll it back. I'm going to roll right over, almost onto the chest. And you can feel that chest muscle, that pectoral muscle right there. Just put light pressure on it and roll it right over. Now, if I want to work a little bit of mobility in the back, what I can do is just bring my knees up, position on the roller, bring that arm out right over the roller. This is also going to open up my chest and look over that shoulder. You should feel a little stretch in the back as well. So my knees are pointed this way, about a 90-degree angle. My hand, I'm opening it up. I may not be able to touch that hand, but I should still feel a stretch in my chest. And then bring it back over. Place the hand on that hand. Nice deep breath. Exhale, opening it up. And bring it back over. Now we're going to switch. So slide that roller down so the end of the roller is right in the front of my shoulder. Bring it over. Rotate, knees are pointed right back up towards the ceiling. And then rotate this hand right back over. Now I'm in position to work that same progression on the opposite side. So right from here, I'll bring that elbow by my head and then just gently rock it over. Both shoulders are touching the roller. Scooch to where I need to be so the pressure isn't right on the shoulder joint, and then just roll it over. Roll it over, rolling over the ridge of the lat on the opposite side. I'll roll down just a little bit, repeat the process, roll it over, and that's the tight spot right there, so I'm going to let it set. I'll move my leg up so we're in a comfortable position. This is the tightest spot I've found so far. Now I'm just going to relax my arm down, bring my arm in front, palm down, just bringing the palm up like I'm bringing it right to my head, right to my temple, and bring it down. So working on the shoulder mobility on this side. So if you've ever been to physical therapy, if you've ever had a shoulder issue, a lot of this internal, external rotation is stuff that they have you do to keep the joint mobilized, to work on strengthening it again and keeping it mobile and keeping everything, keeping it fluid. From here, bring it up, stretch it out, rock it over. I can position my hand on the ground as well if I want to put less pressure on it. So again, there's really no wrong way to roll out. And then roll it right over. There's a tight spot, so I'll gently rock it back and forth, letting this arm just relax. Bridging my hip up to get a little bit deeper. Rocking it over to the side. Oh, and I thought the other spot was tight. This is a tight one too. So again, focusing from the top all the way down to the very bottom. And this will help you become familiar with those muscles in your back. These are important muscles when we're working rows, anything pulling, anything you pick up. If you pick something up in front and pull that shoulder back, or you're carrying bags by your side, anytime those shoulders are pulled back and down in that packed position, these muscles are engaged. And they're so important with keeping those shoulders healthy. A lot of times you don't realize how hard you work them, and that a lot of times discomfort in the shoulders could be just from the back and everything that attaches. So now from here, bring that arm up, bring that arm down. We'll bring the arm across. I'll gently pull the elbow in to support it. Rock it from side to side. Bridge the hip up and rock it down and back, focusing right on that muscle. Bring the hand down, legs in front. Open it up, working on that thoracic mobility. Oh man, a couple cracks right there. So you might actually feel your back crack a little bit. If you're not used to working that mobility, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need to force it. Bring it back over, inhale. And exhale as you relax down. I'm just gonna put this arm right on the other end of the foam roller so it's supported. If I can't touch the foam roller, that's okay. Let your shoulders roll over. You can let your knees come up a little bit if need be, but that's a good gauge of your mobility. If you have your legs on the ground and you can bring your arm all the way over, you can also do this without the foam roller. This is one of our mobility drills we did a couple weeks back, it is actually much easier because you don't have the roller digging into that muscle. But when you think about it, you're getting twice as much done with this one move if you use the foam roller with it. You're not only working mobility, but you're also working that trigger point release. So you're working mobility and rolling at the same time. And that's the key with making it most productive. All right, now from here, we're gonna bring the arm in. Now the outside of the shoulder, another very important area to roll out. Whenever we're working the overhead presses, lateral raises, front raises, anything we're carrying or even pushing, you're using these muscles. So put your hand right on your shoulder. If you feel your collarbone, run right over to the edge. There's a little bone right on the outside. So try to put your finger on the bone right on the outside of the shoulder there. And then if you follow it down, you should have a little lump. That's going to be your delt. On the bottom of that lump, that's the bottom of our area that we're going to target right here. So just the top part. So go ahead and place it just below that bump, lying right on your side. Go ahead and bring that arm up, support the elbow, and then just gently rock it forward right under the bump on that shoulder. And you might be surprised at how much tightness you feel in those muscles right there. So the roller is on that part of my shoulder, right up here. Rolling it forward. And rolling it back. And you can follow that right around to the back of the shoulder as well. But we got in there a little bit as we were rolling out the lats. So focus on the area that is tightest. Oh man, and that is pretty tight right there. So once you find that spot, let it relax. Now again, I want to use this hand to support this arm and pull it in. So I'm not tightening this arm to hold it into my chest. If I tighten it, it's not going to have the ability to relax. So you're going to be fighting what you're trying to do on the roller. You want to let that muscle just relax. So just like you have your arm in a sling, support it in so you're not flexing it. And that'll let you get in there and loosen that up. So however you can position your body. If you want to lie with your hips down, you can. If you want to stagger those legs, you can. If you want to keep them just stacked in front. Or if you want to get in deeper, you can bridge them right up off the ground and then pivot right around. And holy moly, that is getting in there. All right. Now, we've got that shoulder there. Now we're just going to finish working our way right down the arm, and then we're going to work the opposite side. So all of these patterns we want to repeat on the other side when we're finished. Now, the triceps. A lot of folks don't pay any attention to the triceps. Triceps, they're on the back of the arm. They're not really muscles you see when you look at yourself right on in the mirror. But a lot of folks don't focus on rolling them out. I know I, for one, didn't pay much attention to the triceps. It is very important to strengthen the triceps just as much as you do the biceps to keep that balance. Biceps are going to move the arm forward. Triceps are going to extend the arm. Every time you push yourself up, get out of a chair, get off the ground, you're using the triceps. So they're used all the time. And if they're really tight, they attach to the back of the shoulder. They can put tension on the shoulder. Everybody thinks my shoulder's tight. I've got something going on in my shoulder. It could be the triceps that are tight and leading to a lot of that discomfort. So from here, I'm going to lie on my side. Now I'm going to put the roller on the opposite side of my shoulder. I can place my hand on the ground so I don't have to put as much pressure on it. And then I'm just going to rotate my palm down. And getting in this position, just rotate, turning the hand up. And just by rotating your arm, you might feel a little bump in the back of the arm. Now the tricep is a three-headed muscle. Hence the word there. So we've got two heads that run and attach up by the shoulder, one head that runs and attaches down across the elbow. So if you have tension in the elbow, that could also be because the tricep is very tight. I know just by personal experience, I've had some discomfort in my elbow and started rolling out and paying attention to loosening and working on mobility and stretching out my triceps, especially with the rolling, and noticed that the tension in my elbow has dissipated just because these, you know, the tricep is just like two rocks back there. So roll it over. And if you feel it bump right over, if you watch my arm right now, I'm rolling slow, 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 boom. Slow, slow, slow forward. And it just bumps right over that. Try to position yourself so you can place the pressure right on that muscle, and then just gently let it relax and then rock it back and forth. Try to feel the length of the muscle. So I'm pushing my hand into the ground, rolling it out, extending, bringing it back in. Rolling out, extending, bringing it back in. I'll come down a little bit lower. I'll rotate from side to side, feel where that muscle is, put the pressure right on it, and then I'll repeat, rolling it out, rolling it back up. Now I'll get a little bit closer to the elbow and repeat the same, oh man, same thing. So closer to the elbow, you might actually feel a little tension going into the elbow. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. That means that you've got some tightness there. And if you have tension in your elbows, this should be a primary focus on getting on and trying to roll it out or lightly massaging it. Now the key is you don't want to hammer away at it, because if it is inflamed, if it is tight, if there has been an injury there, you don't want to make it worse. But by giving it a light massage and restoring that tissue quality, you may be able to alleviate quite a bit of tightness and tension. So now I'm going to bring my arm up at that 90-degree bend. I'm just going to rotate it back, again, working on shoulder mobility. Now, this is something that can be improved, but you don't want to force it if you have shoulder issues. Bring that palm right over, bringing it down. And again, just by moving my arm, I'll notice it's going to roll right over that tricep. You can try to position it so you feel the pressure right on the tricep, and it's very tough for me because it's really tight. It's like a cable, and it's just bouncing right over it. So I'm going to apply it right on, as much pressure as I can, and rock it back and forth. And just get the length of the underside of the arm. Now I'll give it a quick once over, back and forth on the back side. I'm using my hand also and my core quite a bit to just shift it up, working the length of the muscle. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure, but I'm just rolling it out just like you would a rolling pin if you're rolling out some cookie dough on the counter, trying to just get the lumps out gently. If you just squish it down, you're going to break it. There's going to be a hole in the dough, and it's not going to work. All right, now we're going to work the opposite side. So position the roller down. Same thing on the other side. So put the shoulder on there, right on the roller here. Support that arm like it's in a sling, and just gently rock it under the point of the shoulder. I'm going to unmute you guys and see how you are feeling here. Oh, it's not a touch screen. How's everybody doing?
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any tightness in the shoulders? Yeah? He's got some.
It's pretty painful.
Not everybody's unmuted. I think some of you guys muted yourselves beforehand.
Man, that tricep thing, holy cats.
Goodness, yeah. That was a revelation for me because I rolled out a lot, quite a bit, but I never really put a lot of focus on my triceps. And I noticed I started having pain, like a couple of years back, I started doing a lot of Frisbee, throwing, whipping, playing with Ziggy, throwing his toys, throwing it like a Frisbee.
Yeah.
All that movement right there is working the triceps. That's good, they're developed, but the tighter they get, the more tension you can actually have in the elbow. Or tennis players, same thing. If you guys play tennis, like, I got tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, a lot of that comes from having the muscles tight that run across the elbow. It might not necessarily stem from the elbow, but that's where you're feeling the discomfort, in those attachment points. So you feel it in the tendons. You feel that pressure in the ligaments because everything is tight that crosses over. So if we can loosen the triceps, loosen the biceps, loosen the forearms, that we're not going to get too much today. That could be a whole nother class on its own. But all these muscles can affect how you feel movement in the elbow, or if you have chronic discomfort. Same thing with the shoulder. The back is so important. It's not just rolling out the shoulder, the back, the chest, the biceps, the triceps, everything that attaches over that joint can, pull it off balance. If the back is really tight and the front isn't, I'm going to be off balance. There's going to be pain. If the front is tight and the back isn't, I'm hunched over on the computer all day, like there's going to be discomfort. If my shoulders are tight or my biceps, I strain it, I've got an injury in the bicep tendon, there's a lot that can go on. But rolling can really help you pinpoint what's going on. So now oh man, I was talking too much and not rolling out this shoulder. This one is very, very tight, much tighter on this side for me than the other side was. How about you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, get out of here.
Oh, so again, you don't want to feel pain. Stay in a comfortable position, and you can put your hand down to alleviate some of that tension. I'm going to unmute you guys again, and we're going to repeat that same series on the other side now.
I'm not muted.
All right, I think I got this. Let's see. Boom. All right, so we've got the shoulder there. Yow. So getting that shoulder, rocking it back and forth now, getting right up into the front. Now it's important to make sure you get right in the front of the shoulder too. Getting in the front of the shoulder, you might also get where the bicep attaches and closer to the upper bicep or where the bicep tendon starts to tie in over there. A lot of times shoulder discomfort can come from not necessarily anything with the shoulder, but the bicep tendon. If you've had injuries in the past, there might be some scar tissue in there where light rolling could be beneficial. Getting in the front, you can get right up into the chest also and just gently rolling back and forth. Again, you can put your hip on the ground. You can position your feet wherever you need to. Oh, rocking it over. Work a couple from side to side. And then from here, I'll bring that arm up and position the roller just above the shoulder joint. So now you're on the tricep. From here, I'll relax the palm down, bring the palm up, bring the palm down. Try to get it, and you can also put your hand on the roller to steady the roller and just try to move the arm so you've got it right on the tricep. Gently rocking it. I'll bring it up to a 90-degree angle, and if you can put it right on that muscle, try to get it set right on there. And just by bringing the arm up, you're actually going to be actively lengthening that muscle. So by bringing the arm up, this muscle in the backside is going to stretch as the muscle in the front shortens. As I bring it back down, this muscle is going to lengthen as this muscle shortens. So just by putting it on the knot and bringing the arm up and bringing the arm down, you're going to be flexing and extending that muscle. So that will also help keep it moving and work on different muscle fibers as you repeat that motion. I'll work it down, so working on that internal rotation, again working on shoulder mobility, and rotate it back as far as you comfortably can. And repeat. Now this tricep on me does not seem as tight as the other one, which means I probably don't have to spend as much time on it. But what I notice is this tricep isn't as tight, but my shoulder is much tighter than the other side. So finding imbalances, that could be, did I work one side harder than the other? Or is one side just naturally weaker than the other and I gotta work on training that a little bit more? So making note of those things as you go through your rolling routine can make a big difference in how you attack your rolling session. So if you know you have an hour, then this is what I'm going to target on. I'm going to go through the whole routine. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, a little bit of time on that. But if you know you only have 15 minutes, oh, well, this has been bothering me the past few weeks. Go right to those target areas and focus on those first. Then if you have extra time after they've released, then you can move on to other areas that could be very beneficial. Like if you know your upper body's tight, focus on them. Then if you have extra time, focus on important other parts like the hips or the thighs. So now from here, after we get those triceps rolled out, we're gonna move down to the lower back. Now moving into the low back here, I'm gonna position the roller right across the back of my shoulders. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that left knee up to help give me structure and support my back. From here, I'm gonna hold it up. That's also gonna work on mobility in the hip. I'm gonna place my arm right back on the ground so I can pivot right up onto my elbow. Now, it is gonna take a little bit of shoulder strength and mobility to do this. And I'm gonna start from the middle of my back where we left off, working on the upper body, and start to work it down, right down to the hips. So because I've got this extra structure and support, there isn't gonna be as much pressure on the fascia or the tissue where the rib cage runs down to the hips. So this will allow you to get those small muscles that run right down along the spine and in your sides down to the hips. So just lightly rocking back and forth. So if you know you have tightness in the low back, this one might be a good one to just spend a little bit of time on. I'm gonna put it over there. I'm gonna gently, you can place your hip on the ground too. If you bridge your legs all the way up, you're gonna put a lot more pressure on. If you put your hip on the ground, you can just gently rock from one side to the next. If you feel that tightness, just let it sit there. Again, if you want to put a little more pressure, then you can push with that foot, just like you're doing a single leg bridge, pick the butt up, and that'll put a little bit more pressure in that area. Gently rocking it back and forth, getting right down to the crest of the hip, right down to the hip bone. And then I'll rock it from side to side. And then I'll repeat on the opposite side. So I'll bring the other leg up, supporting it with the arm coming across my body. That'll help hold everything in position. And I'll start right from the middle of the back, bridge it up, and gently roll it down. Forward and back, couple inches at a time, working it right down to the top of the hip. And of course, if I come across any tight spots, well, I'm gonna stay there. Working it from side to side, right across that hip. Right down to the top of the hip. So all those muscles in your back, they're gonna come right down to the top of the hips. And just on the bottom of that crest where they attach are gonna be where the glutes attach. So there's a little space that you don't necessarily need to put pressure on. You don't need to put pressure right on the bone where everything attaches. Stop just before you get there, and then we can start working just below it and get into the meat of the glutes right there. So now I'm gonna come back to the other side. I'm gonna bridge my hips up and just sit right on the roller. I'm gonna lean over to one side so it's on one butt cheek. From here, I'm just gonna relax down, keeping my core tight. And again, my core is engaged the whole time. So through this whole exercise, this whole series, you're working your abs. Now shift it down so it's just below the crest of the hip and gently rock it from side to side, right in by the inside of the hips and the tailbone, and then bring it right over to the side so your leg is almost pointed over. And try to feel those muscles right there on the glutes. We'll shift it down about an inch. Repeat the same thing. Work it in, roll it over, shift it down a little bit, work it in, roll it over, and work it down a little bit more. Now to get a little bit more pressure on it, I'm gonna come up onto my hand, so that way all my upper body weight is driving down, my leg is driving down. I'm gonna push and lean right into that glute, right into that hip. So the glutes are very thick muscles. They're very strong. That's why it's important we focus on using them with every lift we do. You always wanna focus on engaging the glutes. The glutes are responsible for extending that leg, bringing that leg back. So anytime this bone is moving and it's moving back, these muscles are some of the primary movers for that one. So now I'm gonna get right on the inside just before I get to my tailbone and run right up to the top of the hip, right down to the bottom. Now, if I wanna get in a little bit deeper, I'll repeat that process. I'll pull the knee up into my chest or cross the leg right over, pulling the knee up. That way we're stretching those muscles out in the hip, opening it up, creating more surface area. And then I'll just go through a quick once over. And if I find any tight spots, like, yeah, right there, I'm just gonna sit there for a little bit. I'll rock it back and forth, side to side. Now make sure your shoulder is in a good position. You don't wanna have your shoulder cranked up by your head. So the whole time, focus on posture. Chest is up, shoulders are back. Make sure your muscles are in position to support the joint. Rock it back and forth. And if you don't feel comfortable with this one, when you get into these, you could use, like, put your arm up on a couch, or if you've got a stool or like a footrest. So that way you won't have as much pressure as your upper body, but you can still create that angle downward. Now I don't have a bench here to demonstrate, but if I had my steps, I could just prop my arm up or lean against the couch as you get into the glutes if your shoulder can't support the weight of your body. And then just roll it around. So if you can find that tight spot, I'll cross it over and get in there again. So there's a lot of small rotating muscles that come into the glutes and the hips over here. Right down to the sit bone. Once you feel that hard bone, make sure you come right back up again. So stay right on the meat of the glutes. Now I'm gonna place it down. I'm gonna hit the opposite side. So I'm gonna shift over to the other side of the roller. I'm just gonna turn it around so you guys can see the other side. Start with both feet on the ground, again, working on shoulder mobility. Now we are engaging the triceps as we move back and forth. So you're getting a good warm up too in the shoulders and the arms. Right under the crest of the hip, we'll work it from side to side. So all these muscles we're targeting, I think of it like a grid. You've got a little grid with a bunch of cross sections, bunch of lines, bunch of lines. So starting at the top of the hip, move it down to the next line, then work it from side to side. Move it down to the next line, then work it from side to side. So if you think of everything like a grid, you're not gonna miss any spots. That way, if you know you go to the other side, it's like, oh, well, what did I do? What did I do? Just repeat the same thing. And if you find a tight spot, you can move however you need to once you find that target area. Side to side. Once you get down to the bottom, give it a quick up and down, staying right along the inside near the tailbone. A lot of tightness over there. What did we do yesterday? Think back at what you did to target the glutes, and you can say, oh yeah, that's what I did. That got my glutes pretty good. I'm gonna keep on working on that one. Pull the leg up and cross the leg over. Pull it a little bit tighter and repeat the process. I'll come down to my elbow, rock it from side to side. If I want to get more pressure, I can come right back up, putting all my weight right on that roller. And this is one where if you have a Rolga, the Rolga can actually penetrate a little bit deeper. So the more muscled you are, the thicker your muscle, the more dense the roller needs to be to get in there and get in to those innermost muscles. Now the Rolga, because it's got these ridges, instead of having the pressure disperse over the long roller, it's going to be more condensed. So that'll help you get in a little bit deeper. But, you know, deeper and harder isn't always better. So you want to make sure that the tool that you're using is the right tool for the job, and always start out easiest first. Like using like if you got a tight spot and you just go right for a lacrosse ball and set on a lacrosse ball, you could actually cause more inflammation than you do relief. So little bit at a time. Know your body. That's the key. Rolling is a learning experience, and treat it as such. So now right from here, we've got the glutes. So now we're going to start on the hip flexors. Now the hip flexors, another very overlooked area and under focus. We work them a lot with everything we do. We work the quick foot drills. As you work those quick foot drills, you're picking the knees up. Anything that raises that leg up is going to be working the hip flexors and where it ties into the lower abs. So everything, picking that leg up, you do that all the time. You do that every day. Every time you take a step, if you're seated, and where are your legs? Your legs are in this position. So these muscles are shortened. So if we strengthened them yesterday, they're tight. Now you're sitting all day today and they're short. So they're short and tight. So if these muscles don't get stretched out, we're going to be walking around like this, like Neanderthals. So you want to make sure you can loosen them up, open them up, extend. So stretches like driving the hip forward, by squeezing the glute, not just by leaning the hips, but squeeze the glute and you'll feel a stretch there. What we're going to use the roller for is to get in there and just loosen that tissue, which will also help us with mobility. So place the roller on the ground, lie right on the side of your hip. Bring that leg up, just like we do the inside leg raise. This is your pivot leg, and pivot on the elbow. Get right under the crest of the hip. So if you can touch it with your finger, we want to get just below it. And then we're just going to rock it forward, right in front. You can place your other hand on the ground. You can shift your leg wherever you feel comfortable. You could just lay them down. But the key is you want to relax the bottom leg. If this bottom leg is locked straight, I'm tightening the hip flexors. I'm not going to be able to get them relaxed. Let that leg relax and just let that roller sink right in under the hip. I'll bring the leg in front and just shift it forward, back and forth. That's not too bad right there. So I'm going to shift the roller down. So I'm going to move up just a little bit and work it again back and forth. And oh yeah, I feel some tightness right there. So if you feel tightness, let it set there. Work it back and forth a little bit. And so many big, powerful muscles attach up at the hips. We want to make sure we can get in there and loosen them up. Now with the hip flexors here, it's only a matter of a couple inches. So only about 2 to 3 inches right under the hip that runs right along the side. So I'm going to rock it over gently up and down. Now as I roll right over to the side, I feel a little bit of tightness right over here. I'll shift my leg behind and then I'll just roll right across the back of the hip. So we already did this, but just to stay right under the crest of the hip, I'm going to work it all the way around one more time, just because I know that's an important area. Work it down a little bit lower. I'll roll it over, bring the leg behind. So I'm also working on that core strength. I'm working on that mobility. Bring it back over, bring the leg, and then I'll work it down a little bit lower. And once you get below the crest of the hip right there, or a little bit below that, now we're going to start to get into the upper thigh. So the upper thigh, where all the quads start to come into play. All those stabilizing muscles, the adductors, the abductors. So we're going to take this cross section right here and just go right across and then up and down. Now these are long muscles. They run the entire length of your leg. So it's very important to make sure you get in there and loosen them up. The tighter these muscles are, the more tension you can have on your knees. So if you have knee discomfort or poor range of motion or poor mobility, it could be because you're just very, very tight. So now I'm going to get below the hip, right on the thigh, and then just gently rock it down. And once you get into the upper third of the thigh, you're probably going to feel a couple knots in there, a couple bumps. I'm going to work it from side to side. As you start bumping over those large, meaty muscles, just set it there. Let it relax. Again, you don't want to keep the leg tense. You want to let it relax so the muscle can start to lengthen, and then just roll it back and forth. So my pivot leg is the leg that I'm not rolling out. My arms and this foot is going to be working on the rolling. I'm not going to be pushing and extending on that bottom leg, because as I push away, I'm tightening the muscle. So you're defeating the purpose of what you're doing on the roller. So let that leg just relax. Think of it like dead weight. Rolling it down, rolling it back. I'm going to turn my body slightly, so just gently rotating. So as you start to go down that leg, you're getting a slightly different angle, and you might start to feel more muscles bouncing around in there. My hips are almost right across the roller now. And then even from here, to get the inside of the leg, I'll walk my leg right out. So you're almost straddling the roller. Bring that leg up and get right on the inside of the thigh. Work it in and work it out. So you're getting right up into the groin. So all those muscles we work when we're working the butterflies, ooh, that's tight. Must have been frog jumps yesterday. So as you pull them in, all these muscles right there. So if you did the frog jumps yesterday, you probably have some tightness in there. So this will be a good one to practice so you can see all those muscles you're working. These muscles are the ones that we're getting when we have that leg over the roller. Work it in, right to the inside of the hip. and roll it out. And you can run that right down to the knee and start to get in to the quads right in the front. And rotate that leg, rolling right over the quads. And then if I can find that muscle, I'm going to keep it right on that muscle and try to follow it all the way back up to the hip. And then I'll repeat the process. Try to find the next muscle over, and then just roll it right down. Now, just like working the dive bomb or push-ups, or like, I'm not sure what they're called in yoga, upward dog, whatever this position is, pushing away, rolling it out. So this is actually quite a bit of upper body strength and coordination while I'm just relaxing my legs. My legs are just dead weight. They're just flopping around back here. So I'm just rolling the length of my quads, back and forth, gently rolling over. If I find a knot, that's where I'm going to focus. So now we're going to hit the opposite leg. So opposite side, we're going to start right on the side. Cross that leg over. Bottom leg is nice and light. Just rock it from side to side. I'm going to unmute you guys. Unmute all. All right. How's everybody making out?
Good.
Good. Any tightness in the legs?
Yes.
So until you get in there, you might not realize how tight they are, which is why it's important to try to set aside a time to roll out every day. Again, if you're seated, like Jane had mentioned, my back is tight, or if you have tightness, like every 2 hours or so, take maybe like a 5 or 10 minute break and just focus on just doing a quick once over. You don't have to get super in depth with like, oh, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on just the legs. Focus on loosening up the back of the shoulders, loosen up the back, and especially the hips. Because the tighter the hips get, the tighter the hip flexors get, the more it's going to want to pull you over. If your shoulders are rounded forward, it's going to stretch the back out. So your back is already stretched. You don't need to stretch to loosen up the back. You need to roll it out to get rid of all that tension, get rid of all those knots. You need to stretch out the chest, just like we did in those shoulder drills as you opened it up. So we're stretching those muscles, and then we're rolling the muscles. So really, it is a combination. A lot of people ask, well, what's better, stretching or rolling? Before a workout, after a workout? Well, there's really no wrong time to do this stuff. You have to work it in as you feel it necessary, but make sure you work it in somewhere. If you have time before a workout, I notice my performance is always improved if I can spend 30 to 60 minutes rolling out before I work out. And that could be just because it improves my mobility, which gives me a greater range of motion, which allows me to work harder while I'm doing the exercises that, range of motion I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't roll out. You're also getting warmed up and getting the blood flowing from, shifting and pivoting. So you're warming up the joints before we start the jumping jacks and before we start going through our band warm-up routines. So it's like the warm-up to the warm-up. It's not just, oh, I have to roll out, I have to do this. You need to do it. Your body craves it. Your body wants it. It helps you understand what's tight. Should I go easy on something? Or, man, I feel really good. I feel really strong. I feel these muscles working I haven't felt before. So now I'm going to crush it today. So, now getting into those legs, we're almost coming up on an hour now. I think this was supposed to be a 45-minute class. So my apologies if you guys planned for 45 minutes, but you can see how I get a little carried away when I'm having fun.
We know you in clock management.
Yes, you get who somebody called it. Yeah, I wasn't good with the clock management today, but it's okay. It's for your own good.
Oh, we love it.
Now, we've got so much more we can go over. So again, the same thing. You could work the same thing with your hamstrings. So this one does take a little bit more on the shoulders to get into the hamstrings, but they are so important again because, like the glutes, they're such thick muscles. You got to get in there. So this one might be better. Use a couch. You can prop your arms up or lean against it. You can use a med ball to get in deeper. I'll probably have to save the hamstrings for the next one, but just a quick overview on the routine that I'll do. I'll start just below the hips where we left off. I'll work it from side to side. Get nice and deep on the inside of the leg. I'll work it back and forth.
Gotta go.
Back and forth. See you, Jane.
Bye, Jane.
You can watch
Bye.
it.
Love you guys. Bye.
Love you, miss you.
Miss you.
I'll work these right down to the back of the knee. And of course, I'll probably spend like 5 minutes on each one because I've got a lot of tightness in the hamstring. I have had a hamstring injury in the past, and so I know I've got some scar tissue back there. So if I'm gonna be sprinting all out, I have to focus on that because the one time I don't is gonna be the time that I re-injure it again. So knowing your body, knowing your limitations, knowing if you've had an injury, you know what you need to do to prepare for optimal performance. Rolling out the calves, I'll do the same thing. You can do these legs side by side or stack the foot to get in deeper. You can just lie down and get the calves. And the calves is another area you'd be amazed at how much tightness you'll hold, especially if you wear flats, if you wear heels, and you're wearing, non-performance shoes on a regular basis. The calves are going to take the brunt of that. And tight calves can lead to knee discomfort. They can lead to changing your gait, changing your stride, which can affect everything, which is why they say they may look beautiful, but they're not the best for your body. All right, then working the calves all the way down, giving it a quick once over, and we'll spend a little bit more time on the feet and the calves, hamstrings, and even the hands and forearms. That'll be the next workshop that I'll put together in the next week or so. Next week, I might work on a mobility flow, and then the following week, I'll come back to rolling. I'll put a poll up in the group and get your feedback on what you guys need, what you guys want, and that's what we'll start developing. So we've got our strength practice tomorrow, and then Coach Carey's going to put together a nutrition workshop, which will tie into our challenge. But even if you're not doing the challenge, it's going to be valuable information on nutrition and why it's important. There's really no reason not to do the challenge. So make sure you're ready. Now, I'm going to put a little shout out in the group today. So your homework, reach out to somebody, reach out to one of your fellow warriors, text them, message them, an instant messenger, some way contact somebody and get them to hold themselves accountable. Have them join a team with you. So this challenge coming up is going to be a team challenge. It's going to be like a little SWAT team challenge. We're going to have 6-person teams, and we're going to have 3 heats. So we've got 3 different. Well, I'll put the details in afterwards. I'm all over the place here. But bottom line, reach out and contact somebody. Get them to jump on your team. And just because you reach out to somebody, if somebody reaches out to contact you, still reach out and contact somebody else. So let's try to get everybody fired up. Let's try to keep the familia engaged, get everybody ready for this challenge coming up, because this challenge is probably going to be the most important one that we've done. It's not just a challenge just to win. It's going to be a challenge that's going to have the biggest impact on your life moving forward, just because it's going to force you to focus on what you're putting into your body and tracking that stuff and being knowledgeable about what you're eating and why you're eating it. We're going to give you all kinds of information to help arm you with that, but that's going to be a big one, and we're going to have fun doing it. And if you win, that's a bonus. All right, you guys, it's been a pleasure spending this Wednesday morning with you rolling out. We're going to do it again real soon. I'll see you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
You are so welcome.
Bye-bye.